Welcome to the Female CEO podcast, hosted by Sephton. You may know her name, but do you know her story? This podcast takes you behind the titles and into the moments that shape some of today's most inspiring women. We explore the paths they've taken, the businesses they've built, and how they've created success on their own terms. Created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome, these are honest, human conversations, rooted in real experience. Let the journey begin.
Welcome to the Female CEO podcast. Today I'm joined by a guest who is on a mission to interrupt the collective autopilot we've all found ourselves living in. Sue Stoneman is the founder of Moxie, a transformative space designed to help high achievers pause, reset, and redesign their lives that have become defined by always-on culture and normalized burnout. Sue believes that we are built for more than just surviving the week. We are built for clarity, energy, and untapped potential. Through her work, she helps people cut through the noise of constant connection to rediscover what truly matters. Sue, it is a pleasure to have you here with us today and really look forward to our conversation. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thank you very much. I was just, as you were describing that, I was thinking, what a lovely world to live in, cutting through the noise, having clarity, feeling emotionally well. Just sounds like a wonderful place to be.
It does. And then you're in a gorgeous spot at the moment. Can see the palm trees, beautiful sunshine. Thankfully in the UK, the sun is coming, good temperatures coming. What
Excellent.
takes you to Ibiza today?
Yeah. So we are midway through running a reset here, a one-day reset with 8 wonderful individuals who are on the journey you just described of trying to take some time out to pause, to think about what's important, think about where they spend their time, and put in place some strategies to be able to re-enter the world in a better situation and better set of conditions. So yeah, I'm here in sunny Ibiza, heading back to the UK on Saturday.
Well, you're going to bring the weather with you, which is going to be lovely.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a case at the moment where a lot of people are really identifying that they need a place that feels safe. You know, we're hearing a lot about the nervous system, a lot about following our intuition. You know, the pause for some people is very uncomfortable because they have to look inwards. How do you kind of reassure people that are maybe a little resistant, because it's almost like going to the dentist? You know, it's going to hurt a little bit, but overall it is for your greater good.
Yeah, I think you're right. People are a little bit wary, a little bit scared of stepping out and being quiet for a while and going inwards. I think a lot of people think I'm just too busy for it. There's not enough time to take that time for me. And there's almost a sense of the more busy I am, the more important I am, and the better I'm perceived, and the more I'm performing and contributing. When the opposite is actually true, if you do stop, you mentioned the nervous system, and everyone is talking about the nervous system at the moment. But the whole infrastructure of the nervous system is built around activation, recovery, activation, recovery. We've just got really used to activation, 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 and that's become normal. And unfortunately, that's what drives all of the cortisol, the stress, and our nervous systems are crying out for, please just pause, please just allow the nervous system and the brain itself to just rest and recover, because when you do that, you perform even better. So I think the way to tell people that it's going to be safe is that the more you can make your brain and your nervous system feel safe, the more the more clarity you have, the calmer you feel, the quality of your decision making goes up. And in fact, the quality of the relationships you have with yourself and with other people goes up. So yeah, it's a tough one because people are a bit nervous of the silence, but it is good for us. We've just trained ourselves out of being quiet and still, I think.
Yeah. Do you feel like it is a question of like similar to prevention being better than cure? Because you're saying that, our nervous system is being activated, then we're looking to recover it, we're looking to soothe it, rather than actually, what can I do to have my nervous system to a level that is already grounded and strong and resilient, so when things do come, we're not kind of so swayed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I read a lot and I talk to a lot of people who say they're stressed or they're close to burnout, and I think it does come from not treating themselves with some love and some care, and treating their nervous system and their brain in the same way. And stress is good for us. It propels us forward. It motivates us to be curious and to try new things and to make advances in our lives and other people's lives. So it's a good thing. It's just when we don't take the time to recover from stress that the problems set in. So I think putting, as you said, that those conditions in place where I'm taking care of my nervous system, I'm taking care of my brain in the same way I would take care of my body and try to get enough sleep and get some exercise and eat properly and hydrate. If I take some time out to set the right conditions where my brain and my nervous system feels safe more of the time, then I'm more likely to be able to cope with anything that comes towards me. And not just cope, but cope in a way that feels right for me and feels like I'm being me, rather than I'm putting on some kind of performance, or I'm trying to do it in a way that I'm living up to someone else's expectations. I think when you feel safe in yourself, you can be yourself, your more authentic self. And I think that brings more to the world in general, as well as to yourself.
Mm. And you've definitely noted that we've kind of normalized burnout now in our modern world. When did we really stop seeing exhaustion as a warning sign and almost wearing it as a badge of honor, rather than actually saying, this isn't right for me? Like, what is the first kind of step to really unlearning that unhealthy behavior, do you think?
Yeah, and the learning point there is interesting because I think we did learn it. We adapted to a set of circumstances and conditions that shifted, and our brains quickly adapt. Um, so I would say around early 2000s, particularly around the financial crisis, suddenly long hours were the thing. That signaled that you were committed. If you were tired all the time, it meant you were always there and you were always contributing. And we convinced ourselves that that gave us a real value to the organization, to our friends, whatever it was. I think technology also came in around that time that with Blackberries, I remember the dreaded things, the Blackberries and then smartphones, that meant you were available 24/7 if you wanted to be. If I look at my own career, I worked for a global company. There was always somebody up. There was always somebody you could respond to because your phone wouldn't stop pinging. Um, so our brains love to be rewarded and we love to get a hit of dopamine. So the ping goes, you do something, you feel important, and your brain says, let's do more of that because that felt quite good. And so we learned and we adapted that all of the things that were creating stress and creating fatigue were actually good for us. And I think that's how burnout became normalized. And I think psychologists call it something like costly signaling, where we talk about sacrifice, but as providing a sense of value and importance in life. So we got into that sort of mode. And I think the good thing is if the brain can learn, it can unlearn and relearn and adapt. So we can get ourselves off that burnout is fine. It's just comes with the territory and we all have to do it. And I guess there are three sort of steps that help with that. One is around starting to reward different behavior. So rather than rewarding, I worked 28 hours on that and blah, 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 is saying, I achieved a really good outcome. And your brain quickly says, I like the response and the reward I get from outcome rather than effort. So you have to sort of interrupt and redefine what gets rewarded. And your brain notices super quickly what you're getting a hit from. I think the other thing then is to sort of start that rewiring process in your brain where our brains are just like plastic, and new pathways get created really quickly. So if we spot a thought that is, oh yeah, I'm going to spend another 6 hours on that, rather than go pick the kids up from school or be available to go out for dinner with my partner, we can interrupt that and go, you know what? No, I'm not. And as soon as we interrupt thought patterns, that shortcut to our brain starts to get less effective. So I think we reward differently, we start rewiring, and then we just have to take time out to let the brain recover and see recovery as important and necessary, rather than, oh, if I've got time for it, or actually that's a bit of a sign of weakness, isn't it? Stopping and pausing. So I think if we can do those kinds of things, our brain will start to say, oh, there's another way of being. And actually, I feel better for that way of being.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's harder to unlearn something than actually learn something new? Because I think it's both empowering, but also a little, I guess, discouraging to know that I've had a belief on something for so long. It's kind of been imprinted, but we know about neuroplasticity and our ability to change and create new pathways. But is it hard to kind of go from, you know, habits that are almost autopilot, that are ingrained, to kind of taking out the thread of all those and then almost creating a path that's almost totally different to the one that we used to believe?
Yeah, it's hard. I'd be a lie to sit here and say, oh no, it's easy. Everyone can do it. Well, the thing is, everyone can do it, but you have to, it has to become intentional. So you need to train your brain to be aware of when that bad habit, you need to know what the bad habit is that you want to ditch. And when you're aware of that, it's about putting like micro steps in place and rewarding each micro step. If the goal is too big and the habit is too far away from today's reality, the chances of you getting there are pretty slim. If you can chunk that down and also link, if I do this, I'll give myself this reward. It's a bit like if you've got kids and you put the gold stars on the chart, they love it. And your brain's like, I need another gold star. So we, with Moxie, my new company, we have lots of really simple micro goals, micro rewards, because over time you start to stretch those. So the goal gets bigger, the reward gets bigger. And you can unlearn, but you need to know what the goal is. You need to chunk it down. You need to be committed to it. I think that's a big thing. People sometimes, loops right back to where you started. They don't know why they want to change. And if you don't have a why, you can't be invested in it. And your brain's pretty smart. It's like, well, she or he doesn't really want to do that. So it has this wonderful way of, which is its primary function, is to keep you safe. And it says, you know what, Mark's been doing that for a long time and it's kept him safe. So when he tries to step out of that, he almost puts an emergency brake on and says, don't do that, you might get hurt. The thing is, we need to notice when that brake comes on, and we feel it somewhere. It feels off, something feels wrong, our palms are sweaty or our legs shaking, whatever it is. So but we've stopped noticing the signals our body gives us that says, do you know what, this isn't good for you anymore. And the more we tune into our body, the more we listen to what our brains are trying to tell us, then we become more intentional. And if you can link that to, like I was saying, these kind of simple systems where you get micro activity, micro reward, the brain quickly starts to find those new pathways because it's craving its reward and it's going, yeah, if I do more of this, I will get that. So not the easiest thing in the world to do, but definitely everyone is capable. And I think with the right systems and the right support around you, because change is difficult, it's hard, and particularly changing or shifting thought patterns, it is hard because they were there for a reason. They've been keeping us safe. So shifting them is not going to be easy, but definitely doable.
Yeah, I think even before that step of knowing what do I believe and then what is actually not serving me, it does come from that pause, which is primarily what you're doing right now in Ibiza with a number of people, where you're creating a space for them to breathe or pause. For many people that are plugged into this podcast, CEOs, people that are busy inventing and creating, that pause or that time out actually feels like they almost don't have time, and they see it more as a luxury, but actually for you, you see it more as a strategy.
Yeah, I think if you think about the world of sport and you look at elite athletes, they see recovery, pause, whatever term we choose to give it, as part of their high performance strategy, because they understand that the whole nervous system infrastructure is built around activate, pause, reset, activate, repause. So it's like a pulse that goes on. And if you just keep in activate, 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 all it's doing is driving up cortisol, and it's making your thinking and your performance less effective. It's making the quality of decision making less effective. All of the cognitive functioning gets impaired. Emotional regulation goes out of the window. So to see taking time out to make sure I perform at my highest, that my thinking is at its best, that my decisions are great, that emotionally I can connect with other people, I can build strong relationships. If people see that as a luxury, that's a little sad. If they start to see it as that's part of my strategic approach to how I perform, then they will build in time to do it. And it's interesting, more and more of the CEOs that I work with are seeking out ways of learning things like meditation techniques, mindfulness, to be able to step away from the day to day, even if it's for 5 minutes a day, to set up their days properly, to be able to function in this high performance way.
I feel like now more than ever we're so connected to our devices. Go out for a meal and see, like families with all their phones, their iPads, and yet we seem more disconnected from ourselves. Which there's a bit of irony there. In your
Yeah.
experience, what is the most significant thing people find again when they finally cut through that digital noise and sit in silence, just like your event today, where there's a complete just oneness with being in nature?
Yeah, I think strangely, when you start to cut the noise out and you do disconnect, one of the when people tell me, one of the first feelings people get is not the silence, it's a sense of relief, of not feeling that I'm on and I'm contactable. And they describe it as it's like putting down a heavy weight that you didn't even know you were carrying. So living by expectations of other people, or high expectations that you have of yourself. And when you disconnect and you're not being reminded, oh, but the whole comparison, if you're on Instagram and scrolling there, or, oh, I need to respond to this, there's a sense of the urgent rather than the important. When I put that to one side, you physically see people's shoulders drop down. They move away from their ears. There's suddenly a gap that they never knew existed, because everyone's like this most of the time. And when they kind of got through that, then I think in the silence, you reconnect with you reconnect with that sort of inner wisdom that we all have. And I hear, and even heard this morning, people saying things like, the decision that I've been struggling with, after 5 minutes of silence, it just became obvious what I need to do. Or the prioritizing things, I didn't know what I should do next. I know what I should do. Or things just seem a bit simpler and easier. Because when I always think of when we are on and connected, our brains are like, a snow globe.
Mm.
People still have snow globes, but let's assume they do. Those things that you shake and there's just lots of snow filtering around. I think our brains are like that 99% of the time. And when you sit in stillness and quiet, even for a short period of time, all of that snow sort of settles. And then you see the glorious picture behind that you didn't see before. And that's what happens in the brain. When you allow all of the noise and the thinking and the clutter to just settle a bit, the thoughts that you've been trying to access suddenly come banging forward. So that's how I think about the reason why I disconnect, is that my crazy brain just suddenly, I see the picture and life makes more sense.
I think one of the directions I'm fascinated by with your company is that, often people are looking for a cure to stress, but you actually talk about redesigning how we live. Why is it more effective to redesign the system of our lives rather than just looking at, how can I manage or recover from stress?
I think you probably need to do both, because there are different types of stress. And absolutely, if someone is suffering with chronic stress or symptoms related to chronic stress, then a medical solution is probably the right thing to seek. Because that means that stress has turned from stress into de-stress, and you need to do something about it. Um, Stress, I think, is a good thing, because we need that amount of adrenaline, and even the cortisol is good for us because it pumps us up and it gets us ready to do things and to perform. So I don't think stress is a bad thing. I'm not sure we even need to manage it. I think what we do need to do is recognize the level of stress that is useful, and then create a set of conditions in our life to keep it at that level and not kind of up here. And I think life design is all about saying, what's important to me in life? Where do I spend my time? Where do I put my energy? Where do I put my effort? So consciously thinking about, how do I set my time up? Whether it's blocking time out in calendars or having digital fasts between 9:30 at night and 9:30 in the morning. It doesn't matter what it is, but just trying to say time is finite, maybe infinite, but I think it is more finite at the moment. I've only got so much of it. What am I going to do with it in a way that's purposeful and meaningful, and that replenishes me in some way, that keeps me healthy and keeps me safe and keeps me whole? So I think putting boundaries in is super important. I think being more choiceful. A lot of people say to me, I just can't say no. If someone asks, I can't do it. Well, you can. You absolutely have every right in the world to choose what you say yes to and what you say no to. And probably the world won't end if you say no a few times during the day. People will find solutions for themselves. So I think being conscious of even just spending a week writing down, what did I say yes to that I really wanted to say no to? And taking a look at a list, even at the end of a day, and thinking, my goodness, I spent so much time and effort on things that weren't useful to me and probably weren't actually useful to the other person, when I could have been doing things that are more fulfilling, and for me, for my friends, for my family, my co-workers. So I think that's important. I think questioning whose expectations we live by. Are they really the expectations we have of ourselves, or are we trying to live up to somebody else's expectations? And is that healthy? Is that not healthy? And yeah, I think it is just about choice. Remembering we have choice and we have control, and using those two things really wisely in our lives. That's how we create the conditions that allow us to be more whole and more helpful to each other and to the world.
Mm. I don't think I've heard the word choiceful before. I feel like it's quite
Ooh,
nice. You know,
yeah.
a choice that is, it's almost like joyful, but it's full of choice. But I really like that. Um, so you believe we are built for more clarity, more energy, and more life. How does a Moxie reset like today help someone distinguish between the more the world wants from them and the more our soul actually needs?
Yeah, it's so we have 1 day resets and 5 day resets, and obviously you go to different levels while you're here, but you go through the same kind of process. And I think the first thing is that it creates time and it creates space to recalibrate, to think, to reassess what's going on in life. And we mix up a lot of stuff. I mean, the wellness industry is huge and it's growing. My background is the high performance industry, and that's huge and growing. And talking to a lot of, particularly in the world of sport, you can't be high performance if you're not looking after your wellness. So we think Moxie is at the intersection of both of those. It's wellness for the purpose of helping you live and feel and perform even better than you are today. So again, it's quite choiceful in why it's there and what it's trying to do. And we also we looked at everything I've ever done in the world of business, which has mainly been working with CEOs and C-suite teams on how do they transform global organizations, which at the end of the day, organizations are just hundreds of thousands of people. So it's the same thing. How do you shift the thinking, change behavior, transform the performance of people? Okay, for me in a corporate setting and now in a more wellness setting. But to start the process of change, you have to have data. You need to know, where am I now? What's helping me? What's not helping me? You need to have, so we have something called an index, which is takes a lot of behavioral psychometric data and allows you to get some insights in a very hyper personalized way about who am I, what's important to me, where do I spend my time, what are my values, what are some of those inner narratives and voices that possibly are keeping me stuck somewhere I don't want to be anymore. And so we work with that data and we filter out all of the noise that's going on around it so that you really can go deep into that, and look at what sits behind it, what's helping you, what's not helping you. And we take all of that sort of more scientific approach, but mix it in with a whole lot of soul enriching activities to do exactly what you were talking about earlier, to create that sense of stillness and openness, and listen to your body, listen to I was listening to the guys doing a beautiful guided meditation this morning, and just even listening to the words they were saying and thinking, that's now allowing your subconscious to talk and to believe that it's safe to tell you things that it's probably wanted to scream at you for a heck of a long time, but because of all of the other noise, it couldn't find a way. And suddenly you are, even it's ancient wisdom, but there's a hell of a lot of neuroscience behind it about opening up the brain and the heart to be able to accept and listen. And now the guys are working with, what did that tell you? And that's part of the dreaming. They're trying to say, who is it I'm trying to become that makes me feel like me? So that's in the dream it side of things, which is quite playful as well, because, deep down, I think we are all kids. And so a Moxie reset has a lot of science stuff thrown in there, some really good deep conversations about you, on who you are, what makes you tick, but it's all melded in with some lovely old hippie soulful stuff, and some playful fun things, because we have to treat the whole human being, not just the brain. We have to treat the heart, we have to treat the soul. And people start to work out, yeah, that's where I want to head. These are the things that maybe that are holding me stuck where I am today. How do I ditch them? And then we mix with the science and the soul. Our third S is a lot of system. I talked about it earlier. Those micro goals, micro rewards, daily 5-minute rituals where you check in, some gratitude thrown in there for good measure, a whole host of things. I like to think the best that's out there, but bringing it together in a very systematized way that feels manageable. Because if this is your first step into the world of wellness, and people might be worried, I mean, you talked about it, people are worried about pause and going inwards. We try and say, yeah, you're going to do some of that because it's good for you, but we'll do some other stuff as well that lifts you back up. So, you will leave here feeling much better than when you walked in, and with some real clarity about, these are the life shifts I want to make, and these are the first moves I'm going to make on Monday morning. And, and this is how I'll check in. And that's all supported by, we have this wonderful AI coach. I like to call them your worst best friend, because through WhatsApp, everything gets automated, and your 90-day sprint and your 1-week plan goes into the Moxie Circle, and it talks to you every day, your friendly coach saying, hey, Mark, you said you want to run a marathon in 6 months, so you need to run for at least 30 minutes today. End of today, he'll say, hey, Mark, how did you do? Oh, no, because Sue got on the phone, and then kids needed to go to football and blah, blah, blah. After a week of your excuses, he'll come back to you and say, you know what, Mark, you're not running a marathon unless on Monday you change and you start doing things in a different way. So do you want to say you'll run a half marathon? And then we can do a program for that. Or if you still want the marathon, come on, they learn your excuses. It's quite frightening. And, So you can't use that one again because you used that last week. So there's a lot of support for when you leave. It's not you're on a retreat or a reset and then it's all over. This is the beginning of the life shifts, and we're here now to help you take those steps. We also have human coaches that if that annoying little AI woman is like, no, I actually need to talk to someone. Then we have a whole team of expert coaches from the world of business, from sport, psychologists. So even financial experts, if it's something a little more specific, we've got people that people can ring into and talk to and say, I tried, but somehow I'm still stuck. I need some more help. So it's like you're not left on your own. It's a very supportive, intentional way of, if you're serious about making a life shift, we'll help you do it. And we know, following the system, in 90 days, you will have seen such a shift that then propels you for the next 90 days and the 90 days after that. Yeah.
Excellent. So how do people find out more about you and Moxie?
Yeah, we have our website is up and running. You can find us on mymoxie.co.uk, and also follow us on Twitter at discover_Moxie. Or just pick up the phone. If you're on the website, you'll find mine and my co-founder Michael. Just give us a call. We're obsessed with helping people fulfill their potential. And if there's not what you're looking for on the website, then talk to us, because we can always find a way to make stuff work for people.
Thank you, Sue. It's been great to have you on the Female CEO podcast.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Female CEO podcast, created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome. This podcast amplifies women's voices, stories, and lived experience. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our YouTube channel, and discover more at thefemaleceo.com.